So today's vlog is a little bit different. It's something that I haven't done before. But lately, or not lately, but this year I have started reading a whole lot more. As of right now, I have read 107 books since January 1st. And it is currently September the 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. So I have read, in a span of 8 months, I have read 107 books. Some have been short, some have been very long, but overall, the average amount of pages per book is about 100. So, you know, trying to be a little bit more mature. And one second, light up. This is a constant hassle with these girls. Sit. Here we go, good girl. Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a book review on the... I forgot the name of the book. No, not really, not really. There we go. Disciplines of a Godly Woman. As some of you know, I have been trying to get back into my faith, and one of the many ways of that is doing a lot of reading. So therefore, one second, what are you doing? So therefore, that is what we're doing. So I read, over the past week, I read Disciplines of a Godly Woman, and I wrote it down because this is honestly my personal reflection about the book. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it because it's a lot. And then I'm gonna give you my second thought on it. Okay, so and here we go. So it said, this is exactly what I wrote. It says, after reading Disciplines of a Godly Woman, it was both encouraging and convicting for me. The author has a way of showing how the Christian life is not accidental. It takes intentional choices and daily habits to keep Christians at the center. What stood out to me the most was her reminder that discipline is not about rigid rule keeping, but about love. This is so true. Love about God that leads to obedience and love for others, which is a main key point that flows out of a transformed heart. This is key point. You need to love yourself and love others the same way that God has intended for us to love the world, no matter what. Believe me on that one. One of the most challenging parts for me was the emphasis on prayer and scripture intake. I realized how often I allow busyness or distractions to crowd out those moments of quiet with the Lord, even though that they are essential for spiritual growth. That is 100% of the time. I am a very busy person. I have 3 kids, 4 dogs. I manage a business. I also have a full-time corporate job, and I am married. And on top of that, I juggle my house. So this was very true for me because I'm always busy. And sometimes I completely forget how important it is to take 5 minutes of my day and dedicate it to God, which is something that I am trying to work on a lot, especially during the mornings. I have started waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning at the crack of dawn when none of my kids are awake, all my dogs are asleep, and even my husband is not home, so that I can take 5 minutes for myself, drink my coffee, and read the Bible. So I was also deeply impacted by her chapters on the tongue and perseverance. It made me reflect on how easily words can either build up or tear down, and how perseverance in faith isn't about big dramatic moments, but about steady, consistent obedience in the ordinary seasons of life. That perspective shifted my thinking. Yes, you have no idea the power of your mouth. In Spanish, we say el poder de la lengua, because trust me, if you put bad thoughts or bad words or bad sayings or whatever it is they want to call it in your mouth, it will start reflecting in your personal life. And that is something that I have learned on my everyday to-day life over the past years. And I'm not saying this to belittle anybody, but after we moved away from home, we moved to almost 1,000 miles away from our home state, and now we live just like a more secluded or a more private life. We don't really have that many friends around. That has been something that has shifted our complete way of speaking, expressing ourselves, and even sometimes just looking at life different. So that is something that, believe me when I say that, that is true. It says I don't have to wait for a big moment to prove my faithfulness. It is on the everyday today, unseen changes that demonstrate my choices for choosing God. 100% of the time, I may not go to church every single Sunday, but I do try to go at least 2 to 3 times per month. But because again, I'm extremely busy and I have a lot of stuff to do. So give me a second. We are back in business. I had to do some work stuff, but nevertheless, and we continue reading all the stuff that I wrote down. So at some points or at times, I read that after I read the book or while I was reading the book, I did feel the book carried a lot of weight that could be overwhelming, as if there's an endless list of disciplines that I'll never master. And that is 100% true, because sometimes we have a lot of expectations and we believe that in order for us to be like children of God, we have to, in order for us to be children of God, we have to follow every single rule in the book, and that is not the case. The majority of the time, if you read the Bible, God just wants us to be, a kind human being, basically. That's basically the majority of the time. But instead of discouraging me, it actually pointed me back to grace. It reminded me that discipline isn't about striving in my own strength, but about depending on God's Spirit to shape me little by little into Christ likeness. Wait, I'm gonna read that again, because this is something that I felt deep down, and this is exactly why I wrote it. It reminded me that discipline isn't about striving in my own strength. It's about depending on God's Spirit to shape me little by little into Christ likeness. You don't have to be perfect. Let me rephrase that again. You do not need to be perfect. Excuse me. You do not need to be perfect. All you need to be is a kind human being with your heart full of the grace of God, and therefore you will have a good outcome after that. Believe me, I have seen that change little by little in my everyday life. And I was somebody who was very optimistic about life, always had a negative thought about it. And after one day, I decided that enough was enough, and that I just needed to give God, just not my problems, but just talk to Him and sit in silence so that I could just hear Him work His magic. Believe me. Do that when you are feeling overwhelmed. Just sit in a corner in silence. Look for a small space in your house where you feel that that's going to be your corner, and just sit there, have a cup of coffee or whatever kind of drink you like, and just talk to Him. He will listen. He might not respond, or you might not get the outcome that you want immediately, but you will get a good outcome. Trust me when I say that. And to wrap up this vlog, I'm going to just read the last part that I wrote for my review of this book. Overall, this book was a spiritual wake-up call. It helped me see that godliness isn't accidental, automatic. It requires intention, sacrifice, and persistence. But more importantly, it reminded me that all of the efforts flow out of heart transformed by grace. I closed the book not feeling burdened, but motivated to take more intentional steps. Trusting God to me in the process. To meet me in the process. And that is something that I do believe I'm a strong believer that in order for God to meet you halfway, you need to meet him the other halfway. You do need to be very intentional. And again, this is from somebody, like I said, that was very skeptical about life, that always had a negative thought. And whether you want to believe it or not, even sometimes my husband has seen the change. Little by little, my husband is not a full believer yet. He believes on his own. He always has a very different aspect of life. So you do with that what you wish. But I did declutter my house. And when I say declutter my house, I don't mean like took a lot of stuff out and like threw a lot of stuff away, but I decluttered my house from the negative, the bad feels, or I don't know how to explain it, but I started like having less I don't really know how to put it into perspective, but I started removing stuff in my house that I felt like did not belong in there, because it did not belong, or it did not align with what we were going through or making through. So now I have very minimal decor. I don't have like any stuff that do not align with God. So per se, like in my house, I don't have sage, and I don't have like weird paintings or anything like that. Mainly everything that I have in my house is either family pictures or which are not many, or like a few plants and very minimal decor. And like the majority of the stuff that I have is like maps and books and stuff like that, that we have been just basically shifting our house. If you have seen some of my previous vlogs, that is basically what I have been doing every time that I have been remodeling a section of my house. I have been removing everything that it makes me feel weird, and I have been transforming it into something completely new. Therefore, that is one of the main reasons for the one that I changed the color of every single wall in my house, and I painted my whole house white for purification. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the vlog here. I hope you guys like the review that I made about the book. Again, you can feel free to read the book, or you can, I believe you can listen to it, but I'm not really sure about that. I believe Audible is the one that has the audiobook, but don't quote me on that. But you can find the book on Amazon and obviously Barnes & Nobles or any of your public libraries. It is a really good book. I do recommend it. And you can also find it digitally in almost every platform out there. So, you know, read it and just tell me what you think about it. And, you know, maybe we can do another book review. But until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.